When people hear this being described, the clear seeing that there is no separate me, they often assume it's something that was figured out. That at some point it was thought through and then decided there is no self. But that isn't what happened. It wasn't a conclusion that was reached. It was more like every position simply lost its ground. In my own case, this didn't come down to a specific method. It began with trying to understand what this is, this sense of me, or whether there is one at all, through ideas. Looking at different religions, then philosophy, and bringing in science as well. They all seem to contradict one another. Every position could be opposed by another. So the mind keeps asking, is it this, or this, or this? But none of that brought anything to a final answer. So attention turned to practice. Meditation, self-inquiry, and deeper states like jhana. And these clearly had an effect. Experience changed. The sense of I could weaken or even seem to disappear at times. But even then, the need to understand it didn't come to an end. There was still the question, what is this experience? And because of that, it came to a point of exhaustion. Not from one method, but from the whole movement of trying to resolve it. Through thought, through experience, through any approach at all. And what remains is very simple. Not this, not that, neither. And this is where something shifts, because what collapses is not just a set of ideas. It is the assumption that there is a knower here who can land on something solid. At one point, the mind may form a conclusion like this. If none of these are true, then maybe the ego doesn't exist. As if, because nothing can fully explain it, there must be no me there at all. But even that isn't quite accurate. Because the ego didn't disappear because it was proved wrong. What actually happened is more subtle than that. The structure that needed something to be true simply ran out of ground. And when that happens, the questioning drops, the need to resolve disappears, and the sense of a centre is no longer found. There was also a point where everything began to feel almost like a performance, as if people were acting out roles, holding positions, defending identities. Even within the same person, identity shifts depending on the situation. And when that is noticed, what we call identity starts to look inconsistent. At that point, it becomes unclear what could be fixed enough to be a separate self. And with that, the idea of a solid, separate ego starts to lose its credibility. Now, this can sound like it was all reasoned out, as if thinking led to a final answer. But that isn't what happened. What actually happened is that thinking exhausted itself. And what remained didn't come from thinking at all. It wasn't that I proved there is no separate me. It's that every attempt to find something solid to be that me failed, until the need to find it simply dropped. Some approaches try to do this deliberately. For example, Jed McKenna describes a process of questioning each belief again and again until nothing can stand. In my case, it wasn't deliberate. Life itself forced that exhaustion. But the end of both is the same. Not a conclusion, not a new belief, but the absence of anything that can be concluded as a separate me. Thanks for listening.